Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on NFL Betting Blitz. It's time to talk about Divisional Round weekend. We'll talk about the Saturday games today. We'll talk about the Sunday games tomorrow. 8 teams remain, 4 games left. Gino Bacola alongside Erik from ETOF 21 Sports. Erik, we have the Texans on Saturday in their normal spot. They always get this early Saturday game, whether it be in the wild card round, and if they win, they'll get into the divisional round. And here they are on the road playing the Chiefs. So they came into this year, the Texans, as kind of that buzz team after winning a playoff game last year with a good young roster with Stroud and a good coaching staff. And you got to be honest, they didn't really progress all that much throughout the season, but they're probably right where they were hoping to be. At this point, if you look at what they did throughout a lot of the year, they weren't dominant. Their offense didn't take that big step forward. They were only a 10-7 team. AFC South was a bad division, and the offense didn't progress. Bobby Slowick was like a hot head coaching candidate last year. This year, not the same. Their offensive line got hurt. They were banged up with their receivers. But all that being said, they have a dominant win over the Chargers last week, and their defense has been what they've leaned on a little bit more this year. In the second half against the Chargers last week, they had 4 sacks and four interceptions, 1 pick six. They also forced the Chargers to 2.8 yards per carry and 50 yards rushing. Earlier in the year when they played Kansas City, they had 1 sack, didn't force any turnovers. They're going to need a turnover or 2 and a few sacks in here, Erik, right? If they're going to win this game or keep this game close, those are things that they're going to need to create a little bit on the defensive side. And what I like to see from them last week, offense, miserable on the first 5 drives. They looked like they were going to get blown out of the game. They're down 6-0. It's 3rd and 16. And then all of a sudden, Stroud drops the ball, picks it up, rolls to the right, makes an unbelievable play on 3rd and 16. And that leads them on a 99-yard touchdown drive. And then they score on 5 of 7 drives. It's like that flipped everything, and they got momentum. They got mojo. They started moving the ball way, way better, Erik. So that's like my play, and I think that was how you're kind of attacking this game. Chiefs off 23 days, a little bit rusty, and you got a Texans team that might not be as good as them, but they have a defense that can keep it close, and the offense is coming off of a game where they looked better than they've looked in a long time.
I mean, for me, I just bet the first half. Texans plus 5.5. Texans 13-4 ATS first half, best in the league during Ryan's tenure in Houston. 26-11 ATS, 3-0 in the playoffs. Stroud 26-9. Texans first half, top 10 offense, 4th in time of possession, very good in the scripted part. Casey hasn't played a game really in 21 games. Rust factor for them. Once he's historically struggled in this round, 39.5% ATS. Regular season, first half, Stroud actually had better numbers than Mahomes. One thing the Texans do great, rushing the QB. The tackles are the weakness for the offensive line. We saw that Joe Thuney is going to be starting for Humphreys, but I still think that Anderson and company is going to make life hard for Mahomes. Texans defense has been great this season. 2nd DVOA, 3rd in rush and pass defense per DVOA. Chiefs are a timing-based offense. I think they're going to be able to disrupt this timing. Great matchup for Nico Collins, 26 defending wide receiver ones this season. Stroud leans on him, even though missing 5 games, led the team in targets, yards, and receptions. The trends and CJ Stroud stats are telling me to take him for the first half plus 5.5. I also did Dalton Schultz over 34.5 receiving yards. Chiefs have given up the most yards to tight ends this season, 70.1. Taking out the Broncos game, 8 of the last tight ends they've faced have gone over this total. The only 2 that did it were Akins, who had 30, and Trautman, who had 34. During that 10-game run, tight ends are averaging 51 yards per game. Schultz, 5 for 45 last time they played. Schultz, for the season, 2nd in targets and reception, 3rd in yards. Strover went out too, so that's another weapon they're going to be down. So I think they're going to lean on Dalton Schultz. So I did him as well.
Yeah, and remember, while the Chiefs looked a little bit better late in the season, this team wasn't the really potent offense that we remember of old Chiefs team. They were winning a lot of one-score games early in this year. They're only middle of the pack offensively in total yards and in scoring. lots of like little inefficient things that they were doing earlier on in the year, but got to give them a lot of credit. Mahomes has never lost or turned the ball over in a road game or in a divisional game. 6-0, 16 touchdowns, 0 giveaways. They should be better rested, but was it rest or rust? That's what you kind of start battling with when you go back and forth a little bit. Andy, 29-3 coming off the bye. That's an insane number for them. Erik and I both on the Texans first half, hoping they can keep this game close. I think the Chiefs will wear them down late. But Erik, you and I will have a boom fantasy lineup also that we'll give out at the end and let everybody know a way they can get some action on this Saturday. So anything else you want to mention in game one? Chiefs, Texans, we've got your props. We've got
I'll take Dalton Schultz first TD. I'll play him first TD.
That's who you're going to be your first TD. I'm going to go Collins. Those are the two guys I'm leaning on a little bit today, just because the way I'm projecting it is if the Texans win, it's got to be these guys having big games. You hit on Schultz. I also like Schultz a little bit, but just to be different from you, I'm going to go on Collins. What are our prices for those, Erik?
I am pulling them
for the
up
first-time tutties. If anyone wants to play along first-time tutty, and if you're watching us and you have a first-time touchdown you want to share, we'd love to hear from you. So Schultz for Erik, Collins for me for first-time touchdowns.
Collins is 10-1. I believe. Yep. Best price for him is 12-1. For Schultz, it is 20-1.
Nice. Erik's got a 20-1 play. I've got a 12-1 play. Schultz and Collins, two guys we're leaning on for the first tutty. Let's get to game 2 of our 2-game Saturday slate. We have the Washington Commanders on the road playing the Detroit Lions. Washington beats the Bucs last week, and they slowed the offense of the Bucs down a little bit, but there were a couple really big swing plays in that game. Washington was down. They were they were down. They were moving the ball in Tampa territory, and they got stopped on 4th down. And Tampa got the ball back, and that felt like a really big momentum flip in the game. Mm-hmm. And then within 4 plays, Tampa fumbles the ball and sets Washington right back up. So while I respect a lot of what Jaden Daniels has done this year, there have been a lot of games where they've gotten a bit lucky late in the games, right? They've gotten a second chance. The Hail Mary happened. Things that needed to go their way went their way. It's a little scary sometimes because you have these teams that are quote unquote teams of destiny. And I respect what Washington's done offensively. They can move the ball well. I just think this is a tough matchup for them, Erik, because I don't know how many stops they're going to be able to get. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop the run. And now with Montgomery coming back to add with Gibbs, you have that really potent 1-2 combo. There's also one thing if you were playing for Washington, and if you were a Washington fan, I would be a little scared hearing Amon-Ra talk about De'Ami Brown and how, man, I remember everyone that was drafted ahead of me. He's still got that chip on his shoulder, huh? He wants to mention it all the time. He seems like he's locked in. I think this Lions team, with the way that they lost last year and what happened, I feel like they're very hungry. They're very focused right now. This one scares me on a side. The only really play I have in this one, Erik, was the over, because I think both teams will be able to score on each other. Brandon says the AFC South more wins this postseason than the NFC North and the AFC West combined. Ooh. There you go. How about that? Yeah, go for it.
For me, it's really hard as a Lions fan. I'm death-defying nervous about this game just because, can their defense get some stops? When we look at it, 20.6 points per game is what they allowed. When they play a top 10 offense, that bumps up to 26.6. And per DVOA, that is what the Commanders are. They're insanely banged up. No Hutchinson. Arnold is banged up. Robertson, who just had the game of his life, basically shutting down Justin Jefferson. Is he going to be able to do that to Scary Carry? Are they going to be able to shut down the run? Are they going to be able to shut down Eckler off of the out of the backfield. To me, this game is just fourth down variance. Both these teams go for it at an insanely high rate. Commanders 20 for 23 this year, going for it on fourth down, best ever in the history of the NFL. And also 3 for 5 last game, so 23 for 20 on the season. Is this fourth down regression going to happen? Lions allow the fourth most yards per game to opposing running backs via the rushing game. Are they going to be able to stop Daniels? Campbell, look at him though, 53, 29, 1 ATS as a favorite, 26, 13, and 1. When it's 3.5 or more, 17 and 8. They have just been a covering machine with him at the helm. So I did player props here. The first player prop, Austin Eckler, over 22.5 receiving yards. Lions 29th DVOA defending the run, defending the RB in the passing game. They've given up the 15th most yards, 34.8 per game to opposing running backs. The last 4 RBs, Aaron Jones 30, Isaac Guerrero 65, DeAndre Swift 33, James Cook had 28, but in that same game, Ty Jansen had a $114. So the last 4 running backs they have played have all gone over this total. Eckler, 4 for 26 last game, has gone over 7-13 games he's played this season, more effective than Robinson was last week. Also, if this is a negative game script, he could get more run. I expect to see a heavier dose of Eckler. Also, he's a better in pass pro. Then I did Sam Laporta over 46.5 yards receiving. Commanders 26 DVOA defending, opponent tight ends. Gone over the total 4 of the last 5 games to close the regular season. The one he didn't, he missed it by half a yard, averaging 7.8 targets, 5.8 receptions, 67 yards per game. Wagner for the Commanders, who is PFF graded 66 in coverage. He hasn't practiced all week. I think he's going to go from what I'm reading online. So if he's not 100%, that also factors into a great matchup for Laporta. The whole Ben Johnson scheme of the offense is attacking the middle of the field. So I don't know. I just think it's a great matchup. So I'll take Laporta as over.
Yeah, I couldn't get to either of the sides. The real key is there were only 2 teams in the league this year that were worse at stopping the run than Washington. And that's where I really think that the Lions are going to be able to hit them there too. But every Lions game, as you were pointing out, has that fourth down variance where things could flip on just a few plays where you get the fourth down, 2 plays later, you score a touchdown, and the other way, you get stopped on a fourth down, ball the other way. I mean, big swing plays in these games. Erik, do you have a first-time touchdown scorer in this game that you like?
I'm just going to go Sam and Laporta. Not just going to go with the guys I like. I think the Lions will score first. I think
I could see it being like them trying to get Montgomery a touchdown too, like just coming back, like, hey, everybody's happy. Montgomery gets. So I'm going to play a little on 2 in this game. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Montgomery. And the other one who you mentioned, Eckler. I could see Washington driving, and I could see there being like a play action to Eckler for a touchdown, or even getting closer to the end zone. As you pointed out, he's the better blocker. He's just the more experienced player who feels like he's healthy right now. And in a 1-game sample, you just like Eckler out there a little more than Robinson.
Yeah.
Right. You like the options that he can give you. Eckler's plus 2,300 for a first-time tutty. Montgomery is 5-1, 500. So I'll sprinkle a little on the 2 of them. Erik's going to go Laporta. What was he, like 1,200? Is that right?
Laporta is 11-1. Monty is plus 550.
Yep, in that range. So good stuff there. Anything else you want to hit on before we get to our boom fantasy lineups?
No, I think that is it.
So remember, folks, we'll be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Another edition of NFL Betting Blitz. We'll get into both of the games for Sunday. Erik, I'm going to pull up your boom fantasy lineup right here. Talk us through it.
Basically the 3 player props I like, all just to go over their player prop here. It's a little bit juiced up, so you get a little bit of better odds. A little over 5-1, so you can't really go wrong there. I think all of them are going to be a big focal point of the team's offense.
So people can either use the QR code or promo code. Remind us, what's the promo code at Boom Fantasy?
ETOFT21.
So there's a look at Erik. Here is mine. I mentioned the 2 Texans players that I like. I'm going to go with Collins and I'm going to go with Schultz. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm just getting Amon-Ra to score a touchdown here. I think that there's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder too. He was talking about it. These guys, man, we saw it with Michael Jordan, with Kobe, with LeBron, with the real greatest. They motivate themselves, right? They create things to motivate themselves, little chips on their shoulders. Amon-Ra's had a great career. He's in a great spot. Like, there probably isn't any team he'd rather be on or rather had gotten drafted to than Detroit. But you take it personal when other teams pick guys ahead of you. And one of the things I'll never be able to understand, USC had at the same exact time, they had Drake London, Amon-Ra, and who was the third? They had 3 current NFL, like, awesome wide receivers and were just terrible. It just showed you Helton's coaching a few years ago, because Amon-Ra was fantastic in college. He's been a monster here. So there's a look at my Boom fantasy entry. Erik, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, best of luck, people, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Be back tomorrow talking about the other 2 Sunday games. Let's see who makes it to conference championship week. Good luck, everyone, and we'll see you again tomorrow on Sunday.